At 83 years old, Paul Newman stunned the world one final time. Not with a movie, not with a charity speech, but with a Panasonic tape recorder, placed right beside his pillow. These weren't memoirs. They weren't career notes. They were confessions. And what Newman revealed shook Hollywood to its core. 6 secret affairs, with some of the biggest stars in history. Names that studios worked overtime to bury. Blackmail, betrayal, and a trail of heartbreak no one ever expected to hear. So, who were the men Newman claimed to have loved? And why were those tapes never meant to be heard by the public? Let's dive into the list. Number 6. Steve McQueen. When Paul Newman mentioned Steve McQueen on those recordings, it wasn't with nostalgia, it was with fear. Their story began in the spring of 1956 at the Chateau Marmont. Newman was 31, freshly famous from Somebody Up There Likes Me. McQueen was just 26, still clawing for scraps in Hollywood, desperate to climb. At first, it felt like passion, a secret weekend fling. 2 men chasing the same dream, finding comfort in each other's shadows. But Newman quickly realized McQueen wasn't in it for love. He was in it for power. Hidden in that hotel suite, McQueen had planted reel-to-reel recorders. Every laugh, every whispered, "I love you." Every detail of their private nights, captured on tape without Newman knowing. And one night, McQueen revealed the trap. When Newman panicked about gossip rags like confidential circling, McQueen slid a contract across the table. A non-disclosure agreement, signed or risk exposure. The words McQueen used, according to Newman, chilled him to the bone. You know what happens to people who get exposed, don't you? You've got a family. Don't let it all come crashing down. By 1958, Newman had married Joanne Woodward, 3 children, a career about to skyrocket. He had no choice. He signed. But McQueen didn't stop there. Nearly 20 years later, while they filmed The Towering Inferno, McQueen handed Newman a cassette, smiling like it was a joke. "Just a precaution," he said. It wasn't a gift. It was a reminder. I own you. The cruelty even spilled into public. On an episode of The Merv Griffin Show in 1980, McQueen smirked and joked that Newman was a creepy fan who sends me love letters. The audience laughed. Newman sat frozen, forced to smile. Behind the cameras, the pain was real. On his deathbed tapes, Newman's words were clear. Steve McQueen was the most dangerous man I ever loved. For Newman, it wasn't the affair itself that haunted him. It was the betrayal, the weaponization of intimacy. Proof that in Hollywood, even love could be turned into blackmail. Number 5. James Dean. If Steve McQueen was Newman's most dangerous love, James Dean was his most haunting regret. Their paths crossed in early 1955 on the Warner Brothers lot in Burbank. Newman's, 30, still hustling for recognition. Dean, 24, already the rebel prince of Hollywood after East of Eden and Rebel Without a Cause. At first, it was stolen conversations between sound stages, then late-night drives in Dean's Porsche 550 Spider with the city lights flickering across their faces. Whiskey bottles, smuggled cigarettes, promises whispered in the dark. Eventually, it turned into something more. Secret weekends at a rented cabin in Ojai, far enough from Los Angeles that they could breathe, and hold each other without fear of watchful eyes. But Hollywood always finds a way to intrude. One night, a freelance photographer caught them kissing through the fogged-up window of Dean's car. The photo was never published outright, but the gossip column that followed made the implication obvious. "Shadow lovers of the silver screen," the headline teased. The pressure crushed Dean. He was already volatile, already carrying the weight of sudden fame. Now he was branded unstable in the press after an overdose on sleeping pills landed him in Cedars of Lebanon Hospital. Behind the headlines, Newman was the one sneaking in to visit, the one sitting quietly at Dean's bedside, terrified both for Dean's health and his own exposure. The breaking point came in September 1955. Dean scribbled a note to Newman. "Mexico City, Friday. If you don't come, I'll understand." It was a plea, a last chance at freedom, to leave Hollywood behind, if only for a weekend. Newman bought the ticket. He even made it to LaGuardia Airport. But at the gate, fear won, fear of scandal, fear of losing Joanne Woodward, fear of losing everything. He never boarded the plane. 3 days later, James Dean was dead, killed instantly when his silver Porsche collided on Route 466 near Cholame, California. Dean was just 24 years old. When Newman heard the news, he locked himself in his Manhattan apartment and drank for 2 days straight. And for the rest of his life, he carried the weight of that one choice, the flight not taken, the words never spoken. On his deathbed recordings, Newman's voice cracked when he whispered, "James was the moment I chose cowardice over love, and I've been haunted ever since." Number 4. Marlon Brando. If James Dean was Newman's greatest regret, Marlon Brando was his greatest betrayal. They first connected in 1961 at a post-Oscar party in the Beverly Hilton. Brando was already a Hollywood god, a streetcar named Desire, on the waterfront, the kind of career most actors only dream about. Newman, fresh off The Hustler, was the rising star everyone was watching. At first, Newman admired Brando, the charm, the intensity, the way Brando commanded every room like he owned it. But that admiration quickly turned into something much more dangerous. Brando arranged secret escapes to Palm Springs. A Spanish-style villa tucked away in Tahquitz Canyon became their refuge. There, they drank strong coffee flown in from Westwood, read poetry, debated politics, and shared mornings where Newman thought, finally, I can trust someone. But trust was the one thing Brando never gave back. By the early 1960s, Brando's career was stumbling. Box office flops, rumors that he was poison for studios. He needed headlines, any headlines, to stay relevant. And what better fuel than intimacy turned into scandal? Newman's handwritten letters, filled with confessions, longing, and fear of exposure, somehow ended up in the hands of tabloid photographer Mark Weller. In 1962, Weller published a column called Love Behind the Lens. It never printed names, but the details were damning. A man in a red silk robe at a Palm Springs villa? Everyone in Hollywood knew that was Brando. And the tender, vulnerable voice behind the letters? Newman. Brando didn't try to stop the leak. In fact, Newman later admitted he suspected Brando allowed it, because scandal kept Brando's name alive. The fallout at home was devastating. Joanne Woodward, Newman's wife, discovered one of those letters folded inside a gossip magazine. Her response was ice cold. If you need one more lie, I'm not the person who can help you. It shattered Newman. On his tapes, he admitted that Brando cut him deeper than anyone else. Not because the affair ended, but because Brando used love as a weapon. He used love like a knife, Newman confessed. Every embrace was another cut. Brando had turned what could have been trust, partnership, even healing, into a publicity stunt, and Newman never fully recovered from that betrayal. Number 3. Robert Redford. Of all the secrets Newman confessed, none stung like Robert Redford. Because unlike McQueen's blackmail, or Brando's betrayal, Redford's cruelty came wrapped in friendship. The world remembers them as the perfect duo, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, The Sting, two golden boys of Hollywood, laughing on screen, inseparable off it. But what the world didn't know? Behind closed doors, Newman and Redford shared something far more intimate. It began in 1968, before the cameras even rolled on Butch Cassidy. Newman, 43, already a household name. Redford, 32, still clawing for respect in an industry that didn't quite know where to place him. Newman insisted on him. When the studio wanted another star, Newman said no. It has to be Redford. That decision didn't just launch Redford's career. It sparked a hidden romance that lasted nearly a decade. They slipped away to Newman's farmhouse in Westport, Connecticut. Weekends fishing in Utah. Ski trips in Aspen where no one asked questions. To friends, it looked like brotherhood. But Newman's journals painted a different picture. Our own hidden West. By 1976, Newman was ready to stop hiding. Fresh off the sting and flexing his power as both actor and director, he scheduled a private interview with The New Yorker. For the first time, he planned to talk honestly about his relationship with Redford. It was a massive risk. In an era where one whisper of homosexuality could end a career, Newman was gambling everything. But hours before the interview, something sinister happened. The New Yorker offices received a flood of anonymous faxes, accusations, stories painting Newman as violent on set, mentally unstable, addicted to pills and alcohol. Not just gossip, full character assassination. The interview was canceled. Studios grew wary. Newman's projects quietly slipped away. And Redford? He soared. That same year, All the President's Men cemented him as America's golden boy. Polished, untouchable. Newman realized the truth. The timing wasn't coincidence. The smear campaign traced back to someone close. Too close. And the final blow came in London, 1980, at the BAFTA Awards. When asked about Newman on stage, Redford smiled, then said coldly, "We made something great together. But everyone has to move on." For Newman, that wasn't just rejection. It was erasure. Years of love, hidden loyalty, and sacrifice, dismissed in one sentence. That night, Newman scribbled in his journal, "He didn't just deny me. He broke the real part of me I never dared bring into the light, except with him." Redford had been more than a partner. He had been Newman's chance at freedom. And in the end, he chose his career over their truth. Number 2, Sal Mineo. By the mid-1970s, Paul Newman carried scars from every secret relationship before him. Steve McQueen had turned love into blackmail. James Dean had left him with regret. Brando had used him for headlines. And Redford had shattered his trust. By then, Newman wasn't looking for passion. He was searching for peace. And that's when he crossed paths with Sal Mineo. Mineo was no stranger to Hollywood's cruelty. At just 16, he had stolen hearts as Plato in Rebel Without a Cause. 2 Oscar nominations followed. He should have been unstoppable. But in Hollywood's coded language, he was too sensitive, too fragile. Translation? Too openly vulnerable, too obviously queer. By the 1970s, Mineo had been cast aside, struggling to pay rent in his modest West Hollywood apartment, surviving on stage roles and TV guest spots. It was inside a quiet therapy office on La Cienega Boulevard that Newman met him. 2 actors, 2 men scarred by secrets, 2 souls looking for something real in a town built on lies. After group sessions, they'd walk the streets together at night, stopping at Duke's Tropicana for coffee, talking until sunrise. For once, Newman admitted, he felt safe holding someone's hand. Mineo gave him something no one else had: gentleness. A note Mineo once slipped into Newman's pocket read, "If they call you a freak, then let me be a freak with you." With sweet. Those words were oxygen. For Newman, it felt like permission to breathe again. Together, they even dreamed of escape. A screenplay about 2 men in love, set in Venice as the city sank beneath the water. An allegory for their own lives. Newman secretly bought 2 tickets to Italy for March 1976. It would be their chance to live, if only for a little while, outside the suffocating grip of Hollywood. But fate never allowed it. On the night of February 12th, 1976, after rehearsing for the play, P.S. Your Cat is Dead, Mineo pulled his car into the alley behind his apartment. Moments later, he was stabbed in the heart. He collapsed, dying before paramedics arrived. Police called it a botched robbery, but Newman never believed it. On his recordings, he whispered a chilling thought. Sal's murder wasn't random. It was the price Hollywood extracts from those who dare to live honestly. For Newman, Mineo wasn't just another lover. He was the first to offer him healing. And his murder wasn't just tragedy. It was a brutal reminder that in old Hollywood, truth came at a cost, sometimes the ultimate one. Number 1, Montgomery Clift. Of all the secrets Paul Newman carried, one rose above the rest. One that cut so deep it followed him to his final breath. Montgomery Clift. By 1966, Newman was at the height of his powers. Harper had just hit theaters. He was Hollywood's golden man. Talented, bankable, respected. Clift, meanwhile, was fading. Once celebrated for a place in the sun and from here to eternity. His life had been derailed by a near-fatal car crash in 1956. His once perfect face scarred. His confidence shattered. Alcohol and pills became his constant companions. It was out of this mix of tenderness and desperation that their bond was forged. Newman recalled receiving letters from Clift while filming Hombre in Tucson. Handwritten notes on hotel stationery. Raw, aching, impossible to ignore. They weren't love letters. They were lifelines. One read, "I don't need you to choose me. I only ask that you don't deny my existence." Newman tucked those letters beneath his pillow, terrified someone might see. But secrets in Hollywood never stay hidden for long. A wardrobe assistant, rummaging through Newman's dressing room at 20th Century Fox, found one of Clift's letters. Within days, it was sold to the National Enquirer. The headline screamed, "Paul Newman and Monty Clift, the buried truth." Names weren't spelled out, but the details were obvious. Hollywood insiders connected the dots immediately. The fallout was instant. Executives at Fox demanded answers. Projects Newman had lined up suddenly went quiet, and at home, the damage was even worse. Joanne Woodward, his wife since 1958, found herself humiliated. Her note to Newman was brutal. "If you choose to live in lies, at least don't drag me down with you." Newman collapsed under the weight of it all. Friends later revealed he checked into a psychiatric facility in Connecticut under a false name. The public explanation? Exhaustion. The private truth? A complete mental breakdown. Then came July 23, 1966. Clift was found dead in his New York townhouse. The official cause, a heart attack. He was just 45 years old. Days before, he had called Newman. A conversation that ended in shouting. Both men hanging up in anger, not love. Newman never forgave himself. Not for the argument. Not for the silence. Not for the times he hid when Clift begged to be seen. On his recordings, Newman's voice cracked as he confessed, "I thought I was strong, but I was only a coward who knew how to love." Monty was the one wound that never healed. For Newman, Clift wasn't just another secret. He was the secret. The one that defined a lifetime of longing, fear, and shame. And as Newman's final tapes revealed, it was Montgomery Clift who haunted him most, even as the end drew near. 6 affairs, 6 wounds. One legend finally unmasked in his final days. If those tapes ever surfaced, would Hollywood bury them again? Or would the truth finally set its icons free? Let us know in the comments. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more untold stories from old Hollywood.